It's time to get real, reality TV aficionados. Welcome to the Giorgio Says podcast. I'm your host, the one and only Giorgio Takanakis, and I'm here serving you the juiciest updates on all your favorite reality shows weekly, as well as the hottest pop culture trends, and even exclusive interviews that will leave you wanting more. This podcast will keep you on the edge of your seat. We definitely need to talk about this. The Giorgio Says podcast starts now. All right, welcome back to another episode of Giorgio Says the podcast. Happy Monday. It's much colder this week here where I'm at, and we actually had some snow. So that was kind of nice, but driving in it was a bit of a mess. So hopefully if you guys are dealing with some snow or some inclement weather or even some icy rain or whatnot, just stay safe, because we were driving down one road and it just looked like cars were sliding back and forth. Nonetheless, happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone had an amazing weekend. And you know what we're here to do. We're here to recap Real Housewives of Potomac. I'm also going to touch on the new season of Traitors because wow, oh wow. This season is immensely more juicy and much better than the first season. That's all I'm going to say for right now. But we are going to get into Traitors. We have a little bit of quick tea before we get into the recaps of it all. So let's get right into some quick tea and get this kicked off. All right. So we do have some quick tea for you guys, and it's regarding Real Housewives of Atlanta. Kandi Burruss has not received a contract as of yet, and she's been on a couple lives where she's been asked about what she thinks the new situation over there in Atlanta is going to be. A couple sources have said that they are definitely not going to be bringing all of the ladies back, that they might bring one or two of the remaining cast back, and then the rest of it would be new. A lot of you guys have been asking for a reboot of Atlanta, specifically after the last season. We really did not get the content, unfortunately, and we're kind of seeing that actually happen in Potomac this current season, and I'll get into that when we do the recap. But essentially, we know Kandi is probably, I would say, the top paid, even across all the franchises. Like it's a nice check. And we also know that Kenya is also another highly paid cast member. But I do hear that the production and casting, they're scaling back in terms of budget. So it's not really clear what direction they're going to go in, who they will bring back from the current cast. But if they are cutting back on budget, it might be challenging to bring back someone like Kandi, who is very expensive. And based on last season, my opinion, she barely showed up. And I get it. Kandi is worldwide. She is a businesswoman. She's constantly booked and busy. But I guess my question then would be, I know this is probably an easy couple $1 million check for her, but what is she actually bringing to the show anymore? Because I feel like we're not getting too much out of her, at least off the last season. She was barely there, like I said. So it's not really clear if she'll be brought back, unless they bring her back and then just do the rest of the cast as newbies. And that way they'll be able to do a lot smaller salaries for the newbies and then keep Candace. There's definitely needs to be some sort of anchor situation. We saw the Roni reboot, which I recapped, and I thought it was a really good fresh start for this show. So it remains to be seen. We'll see what happens with season 2. But I think Atlanta definitely, we all can agree, needed a shakeup. We also got some news that it's alleged that Eric Fuller, the producer on Atlanta and on Potomac, was fired. But here's the thing. So I did a little digging, and I am connected with Eric on LinkedIn. I did not see anything there that would let me think that he was let go. Now, it is normal if things are kind of in between, like production hasn't really started for Atlanta yet because they're still figuring stuff out. So it could very well be that he's just looking for work in the meantime. So I don't think this has anything to do with him being let go. Also, just so we're clear, Eric is not in charge of casting. Okay. I know a lot of people get it confused. Some people think that he is in charge of casting, and a lot of people have sent him messages regarding some of the casting things. He is not in charge of casting. So he is just a producer, and that is it. I do think once Atlanta picks back up for production, he will be back. I just think that, like anybody, you don't want to stay stagnant, and if there's something that you could be doing, then why not go make that check? So that is where I'm at with what's going on in Atlanta. I think for Candy, it's a little bit tricky because I think she has other things that she may want to sign on for. So maybe this lag of time of her not getting the contract is holding up some other opportunities so that she can better plan. But ultimately, they're going to do what's best for the show. And so, take it or leave it, I guess, Candy. I'm not really sure what her storyline would be. I quite honestly, I know that her businesses are a big part of her life, but I kind of need her to bring something different to the table. It's almost like she's gotten to a point on the show where she feels like it's just enough for her to show up, and that is all. And I just, last season we didn't really get to dig into any of the stuff that was actually going on with her. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, there is someone I'm not quite certain will be coming back, and she's probably used to it at this point, but Sheree, I'm not sure they're going to bring Sheree back. Now, if they do, it'll be because it costs a lot less, but it doesn't sound like even Sheree. I mean, she was on a promotional situation promoting the traders with Tamra. And, I know Tamra during that interview called out to Sheree and was like, you'll be fine, you're good. But Sheree didn't really seem like she would be coming back. So not that that would be news to her. This is not the first time she's been let go from the show and brought back. I think she's probably one of the only ones that's been fired and brought back as many times as she has been. But nonetheless, so that's pretty much all the quick tea I have for you guys. So let's go ahead and get into this recap for Real Housewives of Potomac. Golly Nutrition is an inventive, people-focused nutrition company committed to providing innovative products that make taking your daily supplements simple and delicious. Their products are formulated with quality ingredients you can pronounce and flavors your taste buds will absolutely enjoy. And at the core of it all, they lead with purpose. Golly for Good is an initiative committed to playing a profound role in supporting the health of our planet as well as our local communities. Learn more about their initiatives such as B Corp certification, Vitamin Angels partnership, and Eden reforestation projects at their Golly for Good page. And if you use my special code, The Giorgio Says, at checkout, you will receive a special discount. Now let's get back into the episode. All right, guys. So if you've been watching Potomac this season, then you are aware that it is a snooze fest. It's very challenging to watch. And in this last episode, it was that much more challenging to watch. It was just so boring, I think there was a lot of scenes that were longer that didn't need to be, or it just dragged, and I know a lot of you guys have been commenting when I recap Potomac that it's very slow. It's not what it was. I feel like this is all because of Robyn and Juan. I'm gonna say it. I think people are tiptoeing around holding her accountable. So we're getting this dragged out sprinkle of questions like we just got on this last episode with Mia. But I just wish they would have come out the gate from like the first 3 episodes. We could have knocked this all out and moved on. But because they're dragging their feet, and maybe there were other people that asked questions and it was just cut out. I'm not really sure. I'm not so certain that people really give a crap anymore about this story. I mean, the story is over a year old at this point. It wasn't even featured in the last season, which was really the big hubbub about all of it. So now we're just getting the same regurgitated, scripted scenes and questions, and the answers obviously are going to match up because Robyn and Juan have had some time to get their stories in line. And yeah, that's where I'm going to start this recap because it's just been very challenging to watch. So we start the episode off with Mia, her husband, Juan, and Robyn go to, it's like a culinary school type place where you can learn to make, they're learning to make pasta. And it seems like it's a little couples event, but it's clearly geared that Mia is going to go in to ask Juan about the mistress, the hotel, the credit card of it all. And, you know, I'm not always a big fan of Mia, but in this particular situation, she is the perfect messy one to get thrown in there to start asking these questions. And so she does. But I think even Mia realized when she was getting the response from Juan that these stories are clearly rehearsed and they both say the same things about it. And it's not to say that that wasn't the truth, but I know based on what I discovered when I broke this story last year, that that is not what really went down. Now, you can believe what you want to believe about it. You can think what you want to think, but ultimately, Robyn and Juan are frauds. They don't seem to be forthcoming with any real information or vulnerability or just anything real. Everything seems staged, rehearsed. So that wasn't too much of anything. I mean, the I guess the only part that really kind of stood out to me was when Juan was answering Mia. They kept showing Robyn kind of glancing over at Juan, like, okay, remember what we talked about? Remember what we said we were gonna say? Like, she just almost like it's so evident that they're not good actors. Okay, they're not good at that. So it's just so blatant that it's almost like I don't even care about it. Like, I mean, I don't because I broke the story and I know all the ins and outs of it. But like from a viewer standpoint, that's not that's the same old response. We're not digging any further. We're not giving the hard-hitting questions. So it's perplexing to me. I don't know why they're protecting this whole situation because to me, like I said, this could have been dealt with within the first few episodes. Would it have sucked for Robyn? Yes, but that's the name of the game, baby. You want to come on and try to hide something, and if it gets discovered, then you should know that it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. But that's not what's happening here. We got a few here and there moments about the situation, but it seems like they're cutting stuff out because then we saw another scene from Austin that we didn't get in the episode, at least not that I remembered, where Mia is basically saying the story that Juan's put out there is BS. I feel like a lot of the women that were asking questions were also going off sound bites from what people were saying when the story initially broke. So I don't really know what's going on over there. All I know is that it's just taking a long time. So can we move it along? Can we move it along? Nneka and Wendy still have not had a sit down to discuss this whole shrine situation. I did see a TikTok, one of my followers sent me a link to a TikTok where someone in Nigeria was speaking about this current situation between Wendy and Nneka, and she seems to be more on Nneka's side. And listen, the more and more I watch, specifically after watching Wendy speak to her mom on last night's episode, well, first of all, I'm not really quite certain if now that story that Wendy said about her mom being in the hospital was just for her to try to get some deflection on this whole situation or buy herself more time to kind of figure out where she was going to move from there. Because then when she's having this conversation with her mom, it's almost like Wendy was trying to remind her mom that the situation of her in the hospital was a little bit more severe because her mom kind of was just like, yeah, I had an elective surgery that I wanted. And so there were some complications from that, and that's why I had to go in and have that 10-minute procedure where they put the scope and try to see what's going on. There was something off about it though to me that just didn't seem like it lined up. So now I'm starting to wonder, maybe Wendy is the problem here because, you know, I don't know. I'm just getting a weird vibe. Like I feel like maybe Wendy is a little upset that Nneka's come in and now she can't be the star in terms of like the only Nigerian. But I don't want to think that way about Wendy because I feel like she's so intelligent and so smart. Like it wouldn't be about that, but it's starting to feel like maybe that is what this is all about, sadly. So hopefully this gets cleared up. I do know that based on the previews for the rest of the season, we do see a sit down between Wendy and Nneka, but it ultimately seems like it goes wrong. So I'm not sure if anything will actually get resolved between those two. But Candace meets up with Nneka to have lunch. And on her way to meet Nneka, she's talking to her mom in the car and she's explaining to her mom that she had a mammogram and the mammogram showed that there was 2 lumps. And after some further testing, they found that those lumps were just lymph nodes. But Candace is not, she's not okay with it just being that. She really wants to take preventative care and measures to ensure that she's not waiting for this to develop into some sort of cancer. So kudos to her for taking charge of her health because a lot of people would have just written it off and been like, okay, they're just lymph nodes. I don't have to worry about it. But Candace is more like, yeah, but that is still alarming to me. So I still want to dig into that a little bit more and do something about it before it gets to a point where maybe it's too late. So as she gets to the restaurant, it's clear that her and Nneka, when they sit down, they're just exchanging words, that there is a lot of alignment and parallels between the both of them. Nneka's going through IVF. She wants to start a family, and Candace is very much in that same boat. So as they're discussing this, the topic of Wendy and everything comes up. And Candace is a little bit on the fence because she, I think, really genuinely likes Nneka. And I think if there had not been a situation regarding some shrine and all that stuff, I think they probably would have been able to kick off a friendship a lot sooner. But Candace lets her know, like, look, I don't want to start any problems, but it's probably tricky because it's hard when you meet someone and you're like, wow, we could get on. This could be a potential friend, but then your friend has issues with this person because of what they're saying, and she doesn't want to betray her friend, which I understand. That would be very challenging for me as well. Like I've actually been put in situations like that before, and it is uncomfortable because you feel like, well, I don't have this direct issue with this person, but at the same time, you have a direct issue with one of my really good friends. But, so eventually you have to make the decision. But because these women are on a show, they don't have the luxury to make those decisions. So it's very much going to be like, Candace, you are going to go meet up with Nneka. That's part of the game. But it's how, I guess, Candace maneuvers in those conversations, which I thought she did a very good job at staying neutral and saying how she felt about the way Nneka handled things in response to what Wendy said about her. So all in all, we'll kind of see how this friendship develops. It may be very tricky on Candace and Wendy's friendship, though, depending on how Candace maneuvers in this new friendship with Nneka. Also, I'd love to sit down and talk to Nneka because I feel like there's a lot more to this story with Wendy, and it might clear some things up. And like I said, that conversation between Wendy and her mom really stood out to me in not such a good way. It almost felt like Wendy was having to remind her mom what she was supposed to say in that moment to validate Wendy's story here. So, it's quite interesting how bad the season's kind of unfolding. I mean, I thought this season was going to be good because we were going to come off the back of this whole Robyn and Juan situation. And so the women were going to have something to dig into. But it seems like we're not going to get that. So everyone else doesn't really have much going on. It's very boring. very boring. I'm not quite certain what's going on or what has been cut out. It just feels like we're watching paint dry. I I don't want to say this exact. Well, I almost feel like this season's harder to watch than Atlanta's season this past season. And that was not good, but at least it was more entertaining. There was more feistiness, even if it didn't make sense. This season just seems like everyone's just tiptoeing and trying to play kumbaya in a way that, like, let's just move past this. Like, this is the move past it for Robyn season. And I don't need that. This is not what these shows are for. Like, stop protecting your friend. If it's out there, then it should be discussed. People should be questioning it. Juan should be showing up more to answer these questions because we've heard from Robyn, but can we please hear from Juan? Because if this was any other husband, they would have been grilled about it. He gets to pick and choose who he wants to, I guess, answer questions with. Like, why not be in a group setting and let people just have, like, this is what comes with it. If you didn't want that, then don't come back to the show. It's, I think, frustrating for the viewer too, because they also know a lot more of the detail around the story. So they're waiting for some like real response. And on top of it, we're not really seeing Robyn and Juan together that much, other than the first few episodes when they were just passing by each other in their house. So also, Juan is having problems finding another coaching job. So Robyn's a little bit worried, which is why she's also she's bought into this Glow 30 franchise, which is there's a few of them here in the DMV area. So she'll probably make a good living off that. So good for her. But it doesn't seem like Juan's really doing anything to try to mitigate his issues when it comes to his job and all the things that have come along with it. It seems like Robyn's literally carrying the entire thing on her back, but she seems to be okay with it. So I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for her. And I think she's a lot messier behind the scenes than she tries to portray herself. So there's that. Now, Karen's throwing a event with a charity that she is linked with that helps women who have been SA'd or raped. And a lot of you guys did not feel the need to have this scene be so long, because a lot of you reached out and said that scene could have been a lot shorter. We didn't need to go through all those stories. It was very triggering for a lot of you. But I will say, I think there was beauty in seeing that these women, no matter the situation or whatever issues they may have with each other, are able to come together for something as important as this. Because the truth of the matter is, I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but I know, as someone who has dealt with that in my past, that yes, it was triggering to listen to, like, to just hear how many people this happens to is alarming, and it's sad and it's heartbreaking, because sometimes, like with some of the women, you don't even know, like, you don't even realize how bad it is until a lot later when you've digested it, or somebody else might say something that will have you be like, oh gosh, that is what happened to me. That's horrible. So, it was an emotional moment. Also, we get a little bit of insight in that moment because Mia gets very triggered and has to excuse herself from the table to go into the bathroom because I think it all became too much for her. And when Ashley goes to check on her, she explains that she was, essentially raped. She didn't specify how long ago it was, probably when she was a lot younger, but because she references why maybe she's treating her friend Jacqueline, remember Jacqueline from last season, why she treats her friend the way that she does. And she explains that Jacqueline left her at this party, and she didn't, I guess she's alluding to the fact that Jacqueline's boyfriend was the one that raped Mia at this house party. But nonetheless, she understands that Jacqueline trusted her boyfriend and wasn't leaving Mia there on purpose to leave her in danger. It just so happened that it happened, unfortunately. And so I think it sounds like there's a lot of resentment that Mia's not worked through with Jacqueline. And so it's playing out in the way that she treats her. So that was a little bit of an eye-opening moment, and gave us a little bit more insight as to why their relationship is the way that it is, right? all in all, the episode to me was a snooze fest, like I said. But you know what? I don't know how many more episodes we have left, but it doesn't seem like this season's going to be anything for the books. I'm not sure what they're going to discuss at the reunion. If anything, I hope that they really grill Robyn and Juan at the reunion. Now, are we still bringing husbands to the reunions on Potomac? I don't remember. I need to go back. I don't think they did last season or the season before. No, they didn't. Did they bring them last season? I'm not sure. Either way, let's hope Juan shows up. Actually, he should be contracted to show up because he doesn't have a job now, so can't use that excuse. So we're also not getting too much information about his current situation that he was let go from and all that stuff because it's legal and they don't want to probably talk too much about it, understandably. But also, there's just no answers to anything, it feels like. I feel like I've given you guys more answers to their situation than they have, and they have the platform. Are you guys on the same page with me about this though? I mean, I know a lot of you guys in the comments when I recap it are pretty much echoing the same statements about it, but I don't know. I'm still gonna keep watching and I'm still gonna keep recapping it for you guys. It's just it's getting hard, so I'm hopeful that this season picks up at some point because it is not interesting. But so that's the recap for Potomac. I know it's short and sweet, but there wasn't really much going on. I do, however, want to talk quickly about the new season of Traitors because boy, oh boy, is it good. It is juicy. They dropped the first 3 episodes on Friday, and I was sucked in immediately. First of all, we have a ton of housewives on this season, which I love. And the ones that are so spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it yet, this is a spoiler. So if you don't want to know the detail because you want to watch it for yourself, then go ahead and jump off right now. But we have Phaedra on Traitors, and she is a traitor. And I looked at my partner and was like, we both agreed she is the perfect person to be a traitor because she has this law background. She understands how to like maneuver and speak to different people. And so she embodies the whole traitor thing in such a beautiful way. I think she's so funny and witty, and she's just bringing such the vibe to this show that, like, if you guys are not watching, like, if you watched the first season, which I did like, but this season is like, they are hitting the nail on the head. The only thing I was a little stunned by is I thought that the Traitors show was supposed to feature regular people and like celebrity reality star people, but it seems like this season it's not like that. It's all just reality stars. So that was a bit interesting, but I will say that it's very good. And I was a little on the fence about Larsa and Marcus coming on together, but because they both are technically playing as separate players, it's interesting. I will say though that Larsa is showing up a little bit differently on this show, which is also interesting because we see her in this one way on Miami, which is very like Kardashian-esque still. And on this one, I feel like she's a little bit more herself, or she's coming off that way. So I was a little worried though on episode 1 because it didn't have Tamra because they didn't specify why she couldn't come to the first day's activity, but she wasn't around. And so I was a little concerned that maybe her stint on the show is going to be just like a drop in, drop out, but she's not. She's still on the show. We have MJ on there. We have Phaedra, as I mentioned, Tamra, Sheree. Now, here's the thing about Sheree, though. So on this show, Sheree is almost forgettable because she does not really chimed in a lot, and she's almost kind of like silent in the background. So you almost can forget that she's even on the show. And that's why I'm also like, maybe she's not going to be coming back to Atlanta then. But then what are we going to do with Atlanta if we don't have some key people? Nonetheless, she's not really, in my opinion, she's not really bringing anything to the table on this show, The Traitors, but she's on. So it's nice to see we have a lot of Bravo lebs on. If anyone can figure out a mystery, it's going to be Housewives, hands down, because their show is all about trying to dig into people's crap and try to figure out what the puzzle pieces are. And it's quite good. Now Larsa is still in the game. Marcus was taken out. So she's on her own now. So it's just going to be these housewives. So we'll have to see. I'm definitely going to keep watching. This is definitely a step up from season 1. So if you haven't been watching, and no, this is not sponsored, they are not paying me to promote this. I find the show to be really interesting and it's really engaging. So if you haven't watched it yet, you can watch the first 3 episodes on Peacock right now. Get caught up. I believe there's new episodes every Friday, I believe. So very good show. What else is going on in the Bravo sphere? Not all too much. Gave you guys a quick tea on Friday about Peter Thomas's DUI. Other than that, guys, I think that's pretty much it for a Monday. Let me know your thoughts, as always, on this season of Potomac. Let me know your thoughts on the Candy Burris situation and not receiving her contract yet. Do you want Candy back next season? And if you do, what do you expect to be different? Watch The Traitors. It's very good. And yeah, until the next episode, guys, I think I'll leave you there. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Monday. Stay safe, and if you're out in an area where it's cold or snowy, stay in the house, stay warm, and just binge Traitors. I'm telling you guys, you will not be disappointed. All right, guys, I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye.